We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 57b. The Gemara had a machlokas amoroim, how many karfes can be between two cities, and we merge the two cities into one. This was the opinion of the Chachamim, that we use karfes to merge together two cities. So within that opinion of the Chachamim, Chia Barav said it's one karfef of space can be between them. Any more of that, you can't merge them together into one city. And Rav Huna said they get two karfefs of space in between them. And the question on Chia Barav was that it's explicit in the Mishnah that each city gets a karfef. That's what the seif of the Mishnah goes on to say. So the Gemara says, Hamani Rabbi Meiri. The seif of the Mishnah is actually going back to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Now, Rabbi Meir's opinion was that even a city that's totally independent, not near any other city, it gets a karfef around it. You get 70 amos around it, and only from that 70 amos point do you start measuring the tchum. You don't measure from the walls of the city. You measure after you give a karfef. So Rabbi Meir would in fact hold that if you have two cities, also of course you get two karfefs, just like one city gets one karfef. Rashi over here says, Hamani Rabbi Meiri, hach seifa stomahi, v'lav maskona demilsa de Rabbanani. This seifa is stam Rabbi Meir, and it's not the concluding words of the Rabbanan. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Meiri, but if you're going to say the seif of the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, Hatani le Reisha, didn't Rabbi Meir already speak in the Reisha of the Mishnah, said the exact same thing. No snein karfef lo'ir, every city gets a karfef. Divri Rabbi Meir, that was the opinion of Rabbi Meir, so why should he repeat the same halacha again? So the Gemara says, Tzricha, he needs to say both halachas. If you only had that first statement of the Mishnah, you might think you get one karfef for one city, and if you want to merge two cities, you also only get one karfef. Who says you get two? Kamash Molo, and it comes to teach us the latarti trei yahavinanlu, that if there's two cities next to each other, they get two karfefs of space. V'yashmin and hachan, if you only had this case over here by two cities, and you talked about two karfefs, mishum de dechikat hashmishtayu. In that situation, again, it's a crowded area. Aval hasam de lo dechikat hashmishtayu eimolo. But in a situation where it's one city, it's not crowded, you might think that halacha is not the same halacha. So tzricha, you need both cases. Rashi over here says, v'meha me seifa demayri b'shtei ayoros. If we only had the seifa talking about two cities, Hasam hu dukam Rabbi Meir, there Rabbi Meir says, Diafagav diga karfef l'chol chada, even though each one has a karfef, you have two karfefs, aminan chadi, we merge it together. Mishum de dechikat hashmishtayu, that's because it's crowded. The whole krovos, since they're close together, ein lahen noyu ha'ir bebeis karfifos, adi kotvei. When you have two karfifos, it's not going to be a beautification of the city. You need more than that. Hilka chasa karfef eshtein lio zachas. Therefore, the karfif can merge them together. Aval chad, but if you had one city, delo dechika tashmishta, where it's not crowded at all, she'ein ir acheres muchala, that there's no city nearby, v'yesh la'avir harbe, plenty of space. Ein malones of la karfif klal. Maybe they don't get a karfif added on at all. Sure, you can add on a karfif when you have two cities, that makes sense. But maybe you don't need to add on a karfif at all when it comes to an isolated individual city, kamash malon. So it comes to teach us that even in that situation, you add on a karfif. So now the Gemara continues and tries to prove the machlokas amoroim between Rav Huna and Chia Barav from the next line in the Mishnah. Tanan, it said in the Mishnah, v'chein shlosha kfarim, let's say there's three villages, hameshuloshin, three in a row, im yesh bein shnayim hachitzonim meyo v'arboim v'achas ama ushlish, if you have in between the two outer cities, basically the amount of space of two karfefs, Osa emtsoi es shloshtan liosecha. That middle city can merge them all together, and they all become one. Now, the implication over here is that you have one karfef between, let's say, the city on the right and the middle, and then you also have one karfef between the city on the left and the one in the middle, and the fact that you have one in the middle allows you to merge it. So that's what the Gemara now says. Taima deiko emtsoi. The only reason we're merging everything together is because there's a middle city. Haleko emtsoi. Let's say we would remove the middle city and you'd have two karfefs. Lo, apparently that would not be good. Apparently that's too much space, meaning it seems like just we allow one karfef between each city. That's actually the case over here. When you have three cities, you've got one karfef between each of the cities. The one in the right and the one in the middle has one karfef. The one in the left and the one in the middle has one karfef. So that seems to be a proof to Chia Barav, and it seems to be a proof against Rav Huna. So the Gemara says, Tiyufta de Rav Huna, is that a refutation of Rav Huna? The Gemara says, Amar lach Rav Huna will respond, Ha'itmar Allah, it was said on our Mishnah, there was actually an Amora that clarified the meaning of our Mishnah. Amar Rabba, Amar Ravidi, Amar Rav Chanina. Rabba says in the name of Ravidi, in the name of Rav Chanina, Lo Mishuloshin Mamish. It's not actually three cities in a row, in a line. Elo Rowan calls Sheilu Matil Emtsai Beinein. Rather, it's a situation of Rowan. We imagine if we would take the middle city and put it between these two cities. V'yu Mishulash, and make it three in a row. V'ein Bein Zel Zel Akuf Mema'amma V'achas Ushlish. And in between, again, each city is only going to be one karfef. Then also Emtsai Es Shalosh Liyosecha. Then in that scenario, that middle one can make them all into one. First of all, a little diagram over here, what the cities look like. Basically, you have two cities here, and then you have, this is the middle city, and we are imagining that this middle city is over here, and we're saying if in theory you can put this middle city right here, and then the city would be there, plus the amount of space between the middle city and the ones on the sides would be a karfe for less, then you can merge together the three cities. The Gemara will go on to say, how far away can this city be that we can do this rowing? It can't be that far away that you're suddenly allowed to take any city and drop it in the middle. That the Gemara is about to explain. But in any case, the Gemara over here, so Rashi over here explains what's going on. Lo mishulosh and mamish b'shura achas. It's not in a row. Ela shlishi yomed meiracho keneged bein shnei achitzonim. The third one is a little bit distance away between the two of them, and that's this note over here. This vav goes to kazeh in this formation. And now kol she'ilu mata lemtzai beinein. The Gemara said that if you would theoretically put the middle one there, kilomar. What this means is as follows. When it says two karfifs between the two outer ones, we're not saying that it's up to kuf mem aleph and no more. There's actually a lot more between the two cities. The case of the Mishnah is, these two cities on the outside are very far away from each other, much more than 141 amos. And what the Gemara means is as follows. What the Mishnah means is as follows. If the amount of space between these two outer ones is enough that you could fill it with the middle city, and you'd have a little space left over between that middle city and the ones on the outside, and that distance, 141 amos, dahainu beis karfifos, which is two karfifos, l'shnein for both of them, roin kiluhu nosen beinein. So then we look at it as though that city were there, vare kulon achas, and they're all going to be merged together into one. And if you would leave one to go to the other, to go out through the other city, you'd go from one city to the other and then leave out that second city. You would actually measure from that city that you're exiting from. If you would go from this city to one of the other cities and try to exit, we would measure your 2,000 amos from that city because it's all considered merged together in one city. But if there'd be more airspace than that between the two cities, lo amrin on rowing, then already we cannot apply the principle of rowing. So if it's learned in that fashion, that does not contradict Rav Huna at all, because Rav Huna had said that you can have two karfifs between each one, and if it's two karfifs or less between each city, you merge it together. And that's actually what we're saying over here. If you read Rashi closely, Rashi's even understanding that when you drop that middle city between the two, you're allowed 141 on each side. So we're really changing what the interpretation is of the distance between from the outside to the middle. Before, when we read the Mishnah, the outside cities to the middle city was understood to be one karfif. Now it's actually, you get two karfifs of space from the outside to the middle city. Tosas asked the obvious question. If we're already answering that the real translation of the Mishnah is, it's two karfifs from the middle city to each of the outer cities. So two karfifs from the middle to the one on the right, and two karfifs of space from the middle to the one on the left. Why don't we just answer that in the first place and just let the cities all be in a row and say that? And that's actually Tosas Kasha. You can see it over here. Tosas says, Uvein beis hachitzonos, hainu bein hachitzonos lemtzois. From the outer cities to the middle, v'yesh kuf mem aleph u'shlish lakan, v'kuf mem aleph u'shlish lakan, k'moshe perish hakuntras. You actually have 141 amos, two karfifs from on each side. But if that's the case, why don't we just answer that from the beginning? Let's go back to our original Havamina that these three cities are all in a row. Yefarish Nabi, and let's just explain Canaan that same way. That from the middle to the outside is actually two karfifs, not one. It won't be a kasha to Rav Huna at all, and you can continue on in Tosas to see Tosas' answer to that kasha. In any case, the Gemara continues. Amar le Rava le Abaya. Rava says to Abaya, Kama yehei ben chitzon lemtzai. Like we said before, we're going to ask this question: how much distance is there allowed between those middle and the outside? Meaning from here to here. This one that's so distant from the other ones, how far away is that allowed to be? Obviously, it cannot be an infinite amount away, because then you could drop any city in the middle of any two cities. So that's what Rav is asking over here. So Amar Le, so he said to him, Al Payim, they get up to 2,000 amos. If it's 2,000 amos, which is one tchum, then that makes sense. It's walkable on Shabbos. But if it's already more than 2,000 amos, you can't start saying row and you can't drop it in the middle. So the Gemara says, but didn't you say earlier, that it makes sense to go like Rava, the son of Rabba bar Rav Huna? This was in the case of the city that was shaped like a bow. That who said that even if from the top of the bow, let's say the formation of the cities look like that, so even if from that very top of the arch to the area that the imaginary line between, it could be more than 2,000 amos. So how come over there it could be more than 2,000 amos and not over here? And the Gemara answers very simply. Hachi hashta, what kind of comparison? Hasam ikabatim, over there in that case, as we said earlier, again, if you have a city that was shaped in that manner like a bow, you could actually get to the edge by walking through the houses. We'll take a look at the diagram in a moment. Hacha like a batim. Over here you have no houses. There's nothing else to connect you, so it's got to be within 2,000 amos. And so here again was the picture of that city that looked like a bow. So the city looks like this. Here are all the houses. So we said earlier that it's logical, Abaya said earlier, that it's logical to say that from here until this imaginary line could be even more than 2,000 amos. And the Gemara is answering, well, you know why that could be more than 2,000 amos? Because you can theoretically get to here by walking along this path. That's no problem. Just walk through the houses and you can get there in theory. So since you can get there in theory, we already can draw the line and we can say we measure from this line no matter where you are. It doesn't make a difference. You can walk straight from here to the line and then you get another 2,000 amos. That's true in that case. But in our case, going back to our Gemara over here, in our case where the formation is like this, there's nowhere to walk. You can't get from here to here unless it's less than 2,000 amos. If it's more than 2,000 amos, it's going to be too far away, and we can't use this kind of, this merging, this rowing, and view it as if the city is in between those two cities. Now the Gemara continues with another question from Rava. V'yamar le Rava l'Abaya. Rava says to Abaya, Kami yehi ben chitzon l'chitzon. How much space can there be between the two outer cities? What is the maximum amount of space that these two cities can be, one from the other? So the Gemara says, so Kama Yehe, how much can it be? So he said to him, Kama Yehe, my nafka lachmina. What do you mean, how much of a distance between? Kol shilu machnas and soy beineim. We just said, as long as you could take that middle city and drop it in the middle, v'ein bein zel lazel, ameyav v'arboim v'yachas u'shlish, as long as there's not about 141 amos between, again, from the middle to the ones on the outside, then it's still okay. So what kind of question are you asking? Just take that middle city, drop it in the middle, and as long as you have that amount of space or less between all the cities, you should be fine. So then he said, Va'afilu dalet al payim amma, but even if they're more than 4,000 amos away, Amar le'in. So Abaya said, yeah, it's not a problem. It's no problem, even if it's more than 4,000 amos away. But if you could drop that middle city in there and you could fill it up, it's not a problem. So now going back to the case of the bow-shaped city again. So he said, V'amar Rav Huna, but didn't Rav Huna say, Ir ha'asuya kekashas, if you have a city that's made like a bow, im yesh bein beis rasheh pachos me'arba'as al payim amma, if you have between the two ends less than 4,000 amos, modedin lamin hayeser, then you can draw that imaginary line and measure from there. V'im lav, and if not, modedin lamin hakashas, you have to measure from the city itself, from the bow itself. So over there, apparently, there is a limit of 4,000 amos. So he said back, Amar Lei said back, Hasam lekalamemar mali. Over there, you don't have anything to fill it with. There's nothing that you can say, let's imagine that this is in there. But over here, ikalamemar mali. Here you could say that there is something to fill it with. We'll take a look at the diagram. So again, the Gemara had said earlier, Rav Huna had said earlier, that if from this house to this house is less than 4,000 amos, then you can draw this imaginary line, because then in theory at least, these people can get from here to here using an Eruv in the middle. They can make it one to the other. But if it's more than 4,000 amos, you can't draw this imaginary line. So that's why he's saying over here as well, if it's more than 4,000 amos, we can drop this city in there in an imaginary fashion and connect everything. Why is it any different? So he answers over here, if it's more than 4,000 amos, there's nothing really to fill it with. It's not like we're taking some city from somewhere else and moving it, so to speak, and dropping it in. This is all empty space. But in our case, we're actually taking a city, and we're saying since this city is close enough to these two that it can in theory be considered to be right here, then we're actually dropping it in. We're filling in the space. So it doesn't matter if it's more than 4,000 amos between these two cities. So now the Gemara here concludes with a practical story about the merging of two cities. Amar le Rav Safra l'Rava. Rav Safra said to Rava, Harei b'nei Aktisfon, the people of Aktisfon, the Mashchinan lehu tchum mehai gisa de Ardashir, they get to measure their tchum from the end of Ardashir, because Aktisfon and Ardashir were close enough together, they were considered one city. Uvnei de Ardashir, and then the people of Ardashir, the same thing. Mashchinan lehu tchuma mehai gisa de Aktisfon, they're allowed to measure their tchum from the end of Aktisfon. Basically, it's all merged together into one city. So he asked, Ha'ika diglas, what about the Tigris River? Demifsika yeser mimeya v'arboim v'yachas u'shlish. It's larger than this amount, than this 141 and change amos, and that should be a separation between the two cities. Why do we merge the cities together? So Nafak, so he went out, Achvile, and he showed him, Hanach at Masa Deshura, there were some remnants of a wall, to Mivloi bediglas ba'ayanam v'shirayim, that were actually absorbed, they were covered up in the Tigris River within this 70 amos and change. And so, in fact, the cities actually went into the river. There were portions of the city that actually went into the river within the area that's still considered the boundary of each city, and therefore those cities are able to connect despite the fact that the Tigris River separates them. Now the Gemara continues with a Mishnah regarding how we measure the tchum. The Mishnah says, "Ein modedin ela bechevel shel nun amo." We always measure using a rope that's 50 amos, and you just walk along, keep adding 50 amos until you get to the 2,000 amos. Lo pachas velo yoser. You can't use a rope that's larger than 50 amos or that's smaller than 50 amos. Not less, not more. Velo yimdod ela keneged libo. All measurements should take place holding the rope by the person's heart. Hayamoded v'higia legeo legeder. Let's say a person's measuring and he gets either to a valley or to a fence. Mavlio, he can absorb some of the space. We'll see Rashi on this. V'chozer l'midaso, and then he can resume his measurements. Higia lahar, same thing if he gets to a mountain. Mavlio, he can absorb some of the distance. V'chozer l'midaso, and then resume his measuring. Rashi here explains. First of all, the Gemara will explain why 50 amos, why use that size rope. He should always hold the rope by his heart. What the Chachamim did was they said, a place on the body where the person should put the rope. So for example, you won't have a problem where one guy holds the rope by his neck and the other guy holds it by his feet. That makes the rope shorter. That would make your tchum shorter. Then it said mavlio, that if you get to these various areas, you absorb the space. Meaning, let's say you have a situation where this little valley over here is not 50 amos wide. Misvaso l'svaso, from one end to the other, milmala, from above. Even though if you would go down and back up, you might be walking more than 2,000 amos. We don't say that all counts as part of the tchum. You'll be able to absorb the entire thing. One guy stands on one side of the valley or the canyon, and the other guy stands on the other side of the canyon, and the whole thing just counts as 50 amos. Or legeder, you have a fence, chomas avonim shenafla. Let's say you had a wall of stones that fell, v'nasa gal gavoa, it became a very big mound, u'meshupa and slanted, u'v'nei adam ha'alchan, all the people have to walk up and down it. And so now Rashi over here says, v'chozer l'midaso, he resumes his measurement. The Gemara Mefarsh, the Gemara will explain as follows. D'miniktani chozer l'midaso, since it says in the Mishnah, he resumes measuring, Mashman implies as follows. Shemhaya rochvo keneged ha'ir yoser mechamishim. Let's say, opposite the city, it's more than 50, meaning the distance from one side of the canyon to the other. So let's say here's the city, and he's measuring, he gets to this canyon. Now from here to here, it's more than 50. He cannot have one guy stand here, and one guy stand here on the other side of the rope. That's not going to work. So at that point, keneged ha'ir, it's too much. He can't absorb it with a rope. Now it does get narrower, so let's say he goes over here, he can absorb it over here. So he can have one guy stand over here and one guy stand over here. That's going to be 50 or less. He's able to absorb the space. So he could do that. When they get to this point, they can go over here and get to this point. So now that all counts as 50. That he can do. Then, let's say he got to right here. So then he's got to measure from here until right there, because he's got to get back to Keneged Ha'ir. So the end of the city, if you're measuring from the corresponding to the city, it's really right over here. So he's got to measure what's this amount. That's not a freebie. So he gets from here to here, he gets all counts as 50. Then he measures from here to about here. Now he resumes measuring from there. That's what Rashi's saying. So he measures until he gets to the point where the canyon ends opposite the city. And then he continues measuring as usual from here on, and continues to measure his 2,000 amos. And we'll continue with the Mishnah in the next video on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph.